driving home last night after a long day of work and travel when my daughter called. "Dad, when are you going to be home?" she asked. "In about 5 minutes," I replied. We chatted for another minute or two and then ended our conversation the way we always do. Love you, bye. Love you, bye. About 20 seconds later, I noticed something wasn't right. Something was happening just ahead of me. In a couple more seconds, I could tell there had just been a head-on collision. I pulled my Suburban into the ditch, turned on my hazards, grabbed my jacket because the outside temperature was about -7 degrees, and ran up to assess the situation. There were two used-to-be cars in the middle of the two-lane road, with debris, glass, and car parts strewn around as you would expect from a 100-plus mile-per-hour crash. The first car had the front end completely pushed back to the firewall. The driver got out, and someone took her back to their vehicle to keep her calm and warm. When I looked at the second vehicle, I saw that the main impact was directly to the driver's door, which was now unrecognizable and pushed almost halfway into the car. Then I heard the unmistakable groan of the driver trapped inside. As I went around to the passenger side of the car, someone else had a blanket and was opening the front door. I opened the back door and climbed inside. The driver was squished between the door and the shift lever. The dashboard was pressing on her legs, and her head was about an inch away from a razor-sharp edge of broken door frame. As I leaned over the front seat, I could see some blood, but I had no idea where it was coming from or how much. The driver was breathing short, shallow breaths and moaning with every exhale. "Can you hear me?" I asked, but there was no response other than the continued shallow moans of pain and fear. "What's your name? Where does it hurt?" We then put the blanket over her as best we could, and then the other person climbed back out of the car. I stayed and kept talking to her, even though her only response was her continued moans. Then all of a sudden, she started to move her head. I instinctively put a hand on each side of her neck, braced her head, and told her to stay still. "Can you hear me?" I asked again. Her response was a slightly louder moan. "Okay, I'm here," I told her. Then I could hear the sirens approaching. "I've got you. Help is on the way. You're going to be okay. Stay still. Be strong. It's going to be okay. You're doing great." I repeated these things continuously while holding her head in my hands. As fire and rescue arrived, I could hear them talking, calling for MedFlight and the Jaws of Life. "Let's take the top off," I heard. "Who's inside helping, rescue or civilian?" "Civilian," I heard another say, but he's doing a great job of talking to her and keeping her calm. Then I saw a pair of blue latex gloves, and a man said, "Here, put these on," as he held the driver's head, and I put the gloves on my cold, shaking hands. Then I got back into position and resumed holding the driver's head and talking to her. "Bust the back window," I heard one rescuer say. "Pull that blanket over her head," I heard, so I pressed my head against hers to free a hand and pulled the blanket over us. Wham! I heard the back window smash. I felt the car shake and I felt glass fall all over me. We stayed still as I continued reassuring her, and she kept softly moaning and breathing very shallow breaths. I kept hearing the Jaws of Life running and then feeling the car jerk as they did their job. Then someone pulled the blanket off of us and said, "We have to cut the door frame, which is almost pressing against the driver." I could see the tips of the Jaws coming right next to her side. As the Jaws began to do their work, the driver's moans became very loud and agonizing. "Stop," I called. "Stop, stop, stop," I heard, and the Jaws stopped. Again, with my head holding hers to free a hand, I felt around the Jaws. They were pressing against her side. "You're pinching her," I called, and the operator yelled, "Shit, I can't see." And then he adjusted the Jaws and asked, "How's that?" Again, I felt around the tips of the Jaws. There was about a half inch between the tips and her side. Holding and watching, I said, "Okay." The jaws started closing about an inch away from my fingers and the driver's ribs. Then crunch! Immediately, the jaws were gone, the roof was gone, the little bit of warmth we had built up was also gone. Another rescuer asked me, "How we doing?" "Still breathing, doing okay," I replied. "I'm going to pull your hood over your head," she said, "because it's going to be about 70 below in about 30 seconds. Then I could hear the rotors approaching, and another rescuer said, "Here comes your ride." I pulled the blanket back over us and continued telling her she was doing great. "Stay still. It's going to be okay." As I sat there holding this stranger's head and possibly her life in my hands, I started thinking about the people I love. My oldest daughter just started driving a couple weeks ago. What if this had been her? Did this person have kids waiting at home for mom? Then her moans stopped. Did she just die in my hands? "Can you hear me?" I asked. Another moan, but very soft. "God, please help this person. Watch over us. Get us out of here," I prayed silently. "Stay with me. It's going to be okay. I'm not going to leave you," I told her again and again. Then I thought about my kids again, and all the people that I love. What if something went wrong? What if I were in the front seat of this car? "You're doing great. Just another minute. Hang in there. Stay with me. It's going to be okay." Then someone removed the blanket and asked me to put this sea collar around her neck. Then about 6 people squeezed around to help lift her out onto a nearby backboard. A few seconds later, she was on the helicopter heading to the hospital. When I got back to my Suburban, my phone was ringing. It was my daughter asking what was taking so long. I told her I'd explain when I got home. "When are you going to get home?" she asked. "In about 5 minutes," I told her. "And have I got a story for you." "Okay. Love you, bye." "Love you, bye." Anyway, take what you want from this story. Pass it on to your friends, coworkers, loved ones, if you want to. But here's what I was reminded of last night. Life is short, and it can be over at any second. Don't fret the little things. It's not worth it. If you love someone, tell them often. Call them now. Practice random acts of kindness and senseless beauty. And be thankful for all the wonderful blessings God has bestowed upon you. A few days later, I got a copy of the accident report. The driver I helped was only 16 years old, not even a year older than my oldest daughter, who is now driving that same road. She had several broken bones, a broken pelvis, a punctured diaphragm, a torn spleen, numerous lacerations, and a broken neck. She was on a ventilator in a drug-induced coma for a week and spent a month in the hospital. Almost 9 months later, I finally got to meet her. Isn't she beautiful? And fully recovered. She's graduated high school and has gone on to college to become a nurse's assistant. Meeting her reminded me that God walks amongst us every day. We all have struggles, but He hears us and He answers our prayers. If you're still not convinced, think about this. Her name is Angel.